What's up guys, and welcome back to a brand new HMS news video. Today I'm going to be giving my personal little rank from 0 to 10 on the constructors for their overall Motogp 2020 season. Obviously make sure to leave it down in the comments your ranking for each manufacturer. We may do a video also on the riders and the specific teams maybe, but this one is just going to be the 6 manufacturers, and we're going to be doing it in order of where they finished in the Constructors World Championship. So obviously number 1, we're going to be starting off with Ducati. Now, even though they won the Constructors Championship and they were the best constructor of 2020, I'm only giving them a 7 because they weren't really consistent. Fighting for victory, they were consistent, getting those podiums and those decent points, but even so, the rider that was getting those points wasn't always the same rider. We saw Jack Miller oftenly at the front, we saw Dobby struggling, but he had that one good race in Austria. We saw Petrucci up there, brief moment, and then he was nowhere. The same with Bagnaia, we saw some great races, and then not a lot. And a lot of the times they were in the podium fight and they could have podiums, but the bike just wasn't connecting everywhere, every track to fight for the race wins, and the factory riders couldn't even ride it with the new Michelin, so they definitely struggled a bit there. So that's the reason I've given them a 7. Obviously they were the best manufacturer, so they've done a decent job, I guess you could say, with the consistency and all that, but the bike definitely for me wasn't the greatest on the grid, you could say. But moving on to Yamaha, they finished 2nd in the Constructors World Championship, and once again I'm giving this team, just like Ducati, a 7. They were the team that won the most races, but they were also the team which just showed incredible inconsistency with all the riders. 1 minute you're at the front, then the next you're struggling to get points, and they were still down quite a bit on top end speed. All the riders were struggling. It was just a lack of consistency from all the riders. Maybe with a little bit of exception on Franco Morbidelli, he did get pretty good towards the end of the year, honestly, and definitely stood out, I guess you could say, in that Yamaha camp. Surprising to us, obviously thinking it was going to be Quartararo, but we obviously saw that he had a mental breakdown in 2020. But we're giving Yamaha a 7. They definitely have one of the best bikes on the grid. They do lack a little bit of top end speed, but through the corners and everything, it is a great bike, and when it does connect and hook up on the race weekend, it can win in a very dominant fashion. But unfortunately it is a bike which struggles to overtake others because of the lack of top end speed. But we're giving them a 7, mainly because of the inconsistency with the riders, and the tires and stuff throughout the season. Moving on to P3, number 3 in the constructors, we have Suzuki, obviously world champions with Joan Mir, and I've given this team a 9 out of 10. Because they've done a fantastic job this year with their riders. Also taking in the consideration that Rins was injured at the beginning of the year. If he didn't pick up that injury, Suzuki, I think, could have easily have won this Constructors Championship this year. They built a great bike. It worked pretty much everywhere. It was good for the corners. It still lacks maybe a little bit of top end speed, but not as much as the Yamahas, so it could still fight at the front. It turns really well. It worked well with the Michelins in most of the Grand Prix, and it was just, I guess you could say, the more consistent bike throughout the whole year. And obviously Joan Mir picking up the World Championship was great for them, first time in 20 years. So it was a great job from Suzuki, and it is also a team which, they only have 2 bikes, they don't have the biggest budget also on the grid, so they built a pretty good machine, and that is why I have given it a 9 out of 10 for the Suzuki manufacturer. Moving on to KTM, this has been another great season from this team. I wasn't sure whether to give them a 9 or a 10. I think I'm honestly going to go with the 10, mainly because of the massive leap forward which they've done. Obviously with Danny Pedrosa's assistance doing the development, the massive step forward they made this year was pretty incredible, fighting for wins and podiums, and it wasn't lucky races either. They were consistently up there throughout this year. Obviously they won with Brad Binder, they won with Miguel Oliveira, obviously Paul Espargaro got a whole bunch of podiums, so You know, it was a great season in general for that manufacturer. This bike has made a massive leap forward compared to the previous one, and they're definitely going to be a team to look out for next season for sure. And you know, because obviously they can switch up the engine a little bit for next season, so it's going to be interesting to see what they can do. And like I said, that massive step forward is the main reason we're giving them a 10 out of 10, because you know, obviously they struggled to maybe get inside the top 10 last year, whereas this year, you know, they've won 3 races and got a whole bunch of podiums with their riders, and the bike works well for all of the riders, and they have such different styles. So a great season for them, and they're definitely a team to look out for in the future, that is for sure. Moving on to Honda, all the way down in 5th place. Pretty awful season for Honda. Obviously, we've done many videos talking about the catastrophic Honda season, and unfortunately, due to it being a catastrophic season, I've only given them a 6 out of 10. The season was one to throw away for sure. There was some slightly better results towards the end of the season when, you know, they switched up the settings a little bit on the Honda to maybe suit the other riders, but even so, they were still crashing out often and struggling to, you know, be at the front consistently. And obviously the beginning of the year was awful. You know, they were struggling to get points without Marc Marquez, so it was looking pretty dark for Honda at the beginning of the year. But like I said, the later stages in the season, it did get a little bit better. There was some light at the end of the tunnel, and they did manage to pick up a couple podiums with Alex Marquez. But yeah, pretty awful season, you know, considering it's the best team in history of MotoGP, and they've obviously won all these different world championships. To have this year, you know, go so badly was pretty unfortunate, but it does show what happens when you put all your eggs into one basket, and you know, you lose your basket, I guess, of eggs. You know, losing Marc Marquez definitely didn't help them out. And then to round off the video and round off the little constructors here, we have Aprilia, and once again, I've given them a 6 out of 10 because they have built a better bike than the previous year one. You know, this bike is a pretty decent step forward in terms of, you know, pace and that, but it still isn't as good as what it should be. Obviously, they don't have the biggest budget in the world also, but you know, the fact that they have the more testing, they have the concessions and all that, you would have thought that they would be able to build something a little bit more competitive, I guess you could say, at least in the top 10 consistently. You know, this year they have struggled to get inside the points. We have seen some glimpse of good pace from the bike, but in general, it just wasn't there. It was by far the worst manufacturer to be on. No one even wanted to ride the bike for next year. They had to choose between their 2 test riders, which is a pretty unfortunate situation, but it honestly is. It's just a team which doesn't seem to be moving forward, and it's pretty unfortunate. But you know, there's some good news, I guess you could say, for the 2021 bike. Apparently it's significantly better, the riders have said, from the testing, so I guess we might see something a little bit better next year, but who knows. But yeah guys, that is my ranking, my little from 0 to 10 on each constructor. Make sure you leave down in the comments what are your thoughts on my opinion, and make sure you leave yours also. Leave a like and subscribe for more content as always, and I'll see you with some brand new videos very soon.